What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of That Mill podcast, edition number 7 of the 2022-2023 season. Joining myself, Omer, is Mr. Joe Zampa. Hello, mate.
Hi, Omer. How you doing? You all right?
I'm good, geez. Just the two of us today, mate, so no pressure.
That's right, exactly. I know. I'm sure it'll be okay anyway.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, if you're new around here, guys, and you're watching or listening online, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and obviously be sure to leave a comment below. We're getting loads of great interaction on recent shows, and it's always great to see your insights and your kind of retaliations to some of the things myself, Mickey, or Joe, or Kai, or Chris might say. And we're building up to the first game of the season, Joe, mate. Here we go. Stoke at home on Saturday, mate.
I know. I'm excited, but sort of gutted at the same time. Obviously, you know, and the reason being is I'm away actually on Friday with the family on holiday for a week in Zante. So I'm going to miss the first game of the season. Would you believe? I've been to most of all the friendlies, but missing the first game of the season. So I am really excited, but like I said, I'm a bit gutted at the same time because I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. But you excited?
I am, mate. I think your boy said to me on this weekend as well. Who times their holiday to coincide with the first game of the season, Joe, mate? You've had a proper stinker there, pal.
It's not often that I agree with him, to be fair, but this one, I think he's right, to be fair. I mean, a bit of a balls up on my behalf, but I guess I'm sure I'll be able to sort of find out how we're getting on and getting the commentary as the game goes on anyway.
Get iFollow on by the pool, mate, and you'll be okay. So it should be good.
That's
I
it.
mean, hopefully it's a good win. We'll talk more about that in the part number 2 when we talk a bit about Stoke and their signings they've made. And in the first part of the show, myself and Joe, and also an input from Chris via a voice note, we're going to be talking about what would be our strongest 11 at the moment going into the season. So we'll crack into the first part of the show now, and stay tuned. All right, first part of the show. As mentioned, myself and Joe, we're going to sit here. And I think position by position, Joe, we're going to look through what we think would be our strongest 11. We're going to go work on the framework of Gary Rowett's 5 or 3-5-2, or 3-4-1-2, or 5-2-1-2. We all know the variations. We all know how it looks. And we're going to be kind of discussing, mate, what we think would be, our strongest 11 separately. I'm intrigued to see if we've got similar kind of 11s. I mean, I've not listened to Chris's yet. You haven't either. It's obviously going to be a bit of a surprise for us. I contemplated playing these straight away, but maybe what I might do is after we've done about half the players, we'll come in with these, and then he can finish off the rest of his side as well there for us. So I guess we'll just start with the easiest position. At least I think it is, mate. And we'll start at the back in goal. Who you got in goal, mate?
I'm going for Bart. I think it's the obvious choice at the moment, isn't it? That's obviously my preferred choice there for you. How about yourself?
Yeah, definitely same as me with Bart. I mean, I guess we'll talk about the depth of the positions as well as we go through it, and maybe we can then discuss where we might be a bit light and where we want to add to it, obviously. But I think with Long, I've seen him a couple of times in the cup games and obviously at Colchester, and he does look, a good, very capable championship goalkeeper as well, mate, doesn't he? And I think in that position in particular, and I know we had it with Fielding and Bart, and also I suppose going a few years before that, Archer and Amos, and even Ford and Archer. It's good to have two really good goalkeepers because despite Bart and his, dependable presence in that team since he signed for us, you're only one injury away from losing a key position on the pitch. And I suppose in Long, I feel like we've got a steady, really good backup there to have with us.
Absolutely. I mean, what I like about Long is he's pretty good in all areas, really, isn't he? I mean, he's a decent shot stopper. He's pretty good with his hands in catching crosses. What I like about him, I think he's probably better than Bart, is actually with his feet. Everyone talks about goalkeepers having to have good feet these days, and rightly so, because they obviously get played a lot of balls passed back to them. And Shane Long's, his footwork, his touch, his passing range is very, very good. That's probably Bart's downfall. But then, Bart is probably, one of the best, if not the best, shot stopper in the championship, I believe. So he obviously gets the number one spot through merit. But you're right, though, if he got injured or something happened, then at least we've got a good cover in Long, and we're quite fortunate in that sense.
I mean, obviously, Long also was an England under-20 international, if I'm not mistaken. And he's only 28 years old as well, Joe, with Bart being 35. I think it's like, how long can Bart go on for, I suppose? I know I'm deviating a little bit here, but, 35 years old, a keeper can probably be at the peak of their game until they're, 36, 37? So are we saying maybe a year or two more of Bart? And if Long's still there, I mean, how long will Long want to be number 2 for? That's another kind of question, I
Mm.
suppose. And he's only got a 2-year deal, the last one being now. But you know, it's kind of, it could maybe be a handing over stage eventually, maybe if Bart's form starts to dip, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he was obviously a first team player at Hull, wasn't he, before they got
Hmm.
promoted?
Yeah.
Coming to us, so that was quite a massive coup for us to get him in the first place. And I don't think he would be here this long and be number 2 to Bart if there was no kind of talk or kind of promise, if you like, that he's going to take over in a year's time.
Hmm.
You're right, Bart's not getting any younger. I think this season, we'll find that whether he's still got it or not, and hopefully he'll have a good season. But if there's any kind of inklings of any kind of decline in his performances or mistakes or what it might be,
Hmm.
I think Bart knows that Longs is there looking over his shoulder, is going to be jumping in, trying to take his place. And who's to say that maybe next season Long could be the first choice keeper, and Bart might run out his contract as a backup keeper for the second year maybe. So it'd be interesting to see how Bart performs this season. I hope he does really, really well. I do like Bart,
Hmm.
but at the same breath, I wouldn't be too worried, too scared to see Long come in, because I think Long's if not as good, almost as good as Bart anyway.
Definitely. And we'll have to wait and see, I suppose, how that one unfolds. I was going to go to the right wing back position, but I feel we're both going to be nailed on that. So I'll go to the left wing back position instead, mate. So I'll go first, and I'll say I've got Murray Wallace as in my strongest 11 at left wing back. I know you've raised
Have
your
you?
eyebrow there. It's a bit of a contentious one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought I am denied about this, and I was saying my strongest 11. I mean, you try and play strongest team every week anyway, and I think Malone will get plenty of game time and probably will start the season. You know, we all know what Rowett's kind of favoritism is towards Malone, I suppose, and he's been great for us. I just think if I'm trying to fit all our defenders into the team, I don't think. I think if one's going to miss out, it maybe be Malone, because I look at Murray Wallace and you can put him anywhere on the pitch and he'll give you 6 or 7 out of 10. And he looks just as comfortable as he does at left wing back as he does at left centre half, in my opinion. And I want to put Creswell in the team, and I want to have Hutch in the team, and I want to have Cooper in my team. So I've given you my 3 centre halves there as well. But
Yeah.
I think you're going to have probably Malone, I imagine, at left wing back, if I'm not mistaken. Or are you going to agree with me? Or
Yeah, I mean, you and I have had sort of conversations, away from the show, haven't we, about our preferences and ideas, and we kind of made reasons for this. And
Mhm.
I'm going for Malone left wing back.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, I think Murray can do a good job at left wing back, and he has done over the last sort of couple of seasons. But I don't know. I feel when we're playing with the formation we're playing with a back 3, 2 sort of sitting midfielders and a number 10, you do really rely on your wing backs being quite attack minded.
Mhm.
And although Murray can do a job there, I just feel that Malone will give us a bit more attacking output, whether that be scoring goals or getting to the bylines, or getting really in that box and getting that final third and creating things for us. So that's my reason. But I'm still going to have Murray in my team.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, I'll let you know where in due course. But for me, it'd be Malone.
I think with Malone, I obviously agree. Like, he's been outstanding for us the last 2 years since he joined back at the club. I just think, I think this preseason, I know, like, we don't put a lot of emphasis on preseason. I just feel like I don't know, I feel like he's lost a bit. He didn't have a lot of pace. He's not slow, but he's not fast. I feel like he's lost that bit of pace he had about him. Maybe I'm
Mm.
mistaken, and maybe he's going to hit the ground running first game of the season. I sincerely hope he does. Again, this is just me picking my team. If listeners are watching and questioning it, it's I'm encouraging you to put your team in the comments below as well. I just think Wallace. Yeah, I agree with you on attacking output. Maybe Maloney is definitely the stronger of the two there, but he can get up and down the pitch. And I think maybe my team might make more sense once you hear my midfield too. Maybe there's the legs and energy that we might need in the team. So we'll see anyway.
Mm.
But go on, where you got Murray Wallace in your team then, mate? Is it left centre half?
So I've gone for him at the left centre half. Shall I give the rest of it as well? While
Yeah,
we're at it?
go for it.
Yeah, I've gone for him the left centre half. I've gone for Cresswell on the other side, so it's a right centre half.
Yep.
And there's always going to be one casualty, isn't there, like
Mhm.
between them all? And picking between Cooper and Hutchinson. As much as I would never like to sort of drop Hutchinson, I think he's a great defender, great captain for us, a great player, and very, very, very reliable. I think Cooper playing in the centre will be better for us. There's always, you always feel a bit uncomfortable when you see Cooper play on that left side of the 3, especially when he's having to sort of chase wingers or fast forwards in that kind of corner area.
Mhm.
He does lack a little bit of mobility. His real strengths, I believe, is his man marking, his aerial ability, obviously for his height. So having him in the middle, I think would just suit him better. And where we've seen him play in the middle towards the end of last season and also in pre-season, he just looks more and more comfortable. I think he's growing in more confidence in that position and letting the guys who are a little bit more agile, the likes of Murray, Wallace, the likes of Cresswell, that can do that kind of running, that can chase those long balls into the corners and hopefully be a little bit more mobile for us.
Definitely, and I think if anything, that's kind of the reason why I put my West left wing back with the idea that I'm having Cooper in the heart of the defence, because maybe I might have had Hutch there, or I'm in an iron what you're going to pick, and your reasons are very similar there for me. Like I think Cooper for me is the heart of the defence for my team as well, and I've said it on a couple of shows, and we've spoke about it since as well. Like I think with Cooper playing in the wider positions, you do get him dragged out of positions. If he's down the channel trying to defend his own box, you see him struggle. Whereas if you have him in the heart of the defence, he can be the deeper of the three, so to speak, and kind of obviously man marker tall target man, or you can try and win headers in the box. But also he can then sweep up from the back without having to push forward, then to turn on his own back afterwards, which I think you do see sometimes in the wider centre-half positions. And yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I guess we'll touch on Cresswell because we both got him in our starting strongest 11s. I think I said it last week, and obviously in the last show as well. I think he might be the outside shout for player of the season once Millwall fans all see him play, mate. And I hope he does live up to the billing. I think he will personally. I kind of don't have any doubts either. Whether he's the player of the season, that's far-fetched. But I think once Millwall fans see him on Saturday, if he does play or when he does get his opportunity, I think we're all going to fall in love with him straight away. I feel like, mate.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I've only seen him obviously in pre-season friendlies, seen stuff, when he leads some highlights reels and stuff, and he looks very, very good. Seen him against some highlights play for England, very, very comfortable on the ball. I think once he grows in confidence, we'll see even more from Cresswell. I think we'll see him being a little bit expressive, maybe getting forward a little bit, doing some overlaps or underlaps if you like. But again, I've said it in previous shows. I just love his vocal. The way he is, the way he shouts, for the seconds on that pitch, from the minute that ball's kicked off, he's just there. He's just so focused. He's geeing everyone up. He's talking to all the players. He's shouting. And I also see the attacking the opposition team being quite intimidated by him. I've seen forwards kind of look at him and kind of peel away from him and don't want to get too close to him because he's literally so focused and so determined to win that ball. It kind of off puts them a little bit. Plus, he gives us that mobility and that speed that we mentioned before as well, which I think is so important. I mean, we could talk about tactics again during the course of this, but there's a lot of talk about whether we're going to go for high press, sit back and wait. And it looks like we're going to go for high press. So if you go for high press, you've got to go for high midfield and high defensive line as well. So to do that, you need a bit of pace at the back. And if we went with Hutch, Cooper, and Muzzer, I don't think we've got a lot of pace there. I think probably Muzzer's probably the one that's going to be the quickest out of the three of them. But having Cresswell on there as well would definitely help us with the pace we need to kind of cut cover in case any balls go over the top.
Definitely. And I think we're going to see Cresswell come out with the ball a lot and hopefully, try and drive forward with it and maybe be that kind of deep line playmaker from the centre-half position. So we'll have to wait and see. This is all in theory. Hopefully we're right here. I've actually got Cresswell as left centre-half in my team, Joe, by the way, because I think he's a bit better with
I was
both
just trying
feet.
to work it out there with your players. Yeah.
So I've got Cresswell left centre-half, Cooper centre-half, and I've got Hutchinson right centre-half. And on the right wing back position, I think we'll both agree. I've got Danny McNamara in there. Again, the contract situation is looming over his head. It still hasn't been signed, unless I've missed something today. I don't think it has done. So it's dragging on a lot, isn't it? And I mean, I think it feels like a bit of a standoff, and I think he won't play on Saturday personally. I think he's favouring Leonard until McNamara sorts his future out, in the sense of like, all right, you're holding out for this money, mate. Until you sign that contract or we come to an agreement here, we're going to play someone else in that position. It felt like because obviously the preseason game before. A little bit I actually do, to be honest, because especially if it is a standoff with the club feeling like they've made him a good offer, and then the agent and McNamara is then saying, well, maybe we think he's worth a bit more. Maybe it is a bit of a kind of a hedgestone, bring him down a little bit, or a bit of a power trip. And I think I do in a sense, because I don't think Leonard's terrible in that position either, and I do think Leonard will be a good deputy to have it across the back line in all positions and in midfield. So. Yeah, I mean, it's no question for me that McNamara is our best right wing back and he should be in the sides. But I think until his contract situation is sorted, I'm not that opposed to Leonard playing there, I suppose I'm going to say. But with
Yeah.
obviously Danny's strengths, he's obviously, he's fan favourite. We all love him. Gets up and down the pitch, good quality on the ball, isn't he, as well? And he seems to be a composed figure at right wing back, doesn't he? He's always able to take a touch and get his head up and look for a pass instead of like frantically running the ball or trying to run into a dead end position. He seems to get up and down as well, doesn't he? And he doesn't stop, I feel like, mate. And he's a bit of a Duracell bunny, I think, in a sense. He keeps going. But it's not necessarily as quick, but it's more so like he just always seems to be kind of composed on the ball. That kind of stands out for me with him.
Yeah, he seems to be very, very sort of switched on. He's focused. I mean, Leonard is as well when he plays there. But I think, given the fact that McNamara's played there so often and he's made that his position since his career being at Millwall, I guess he's allowed himself to identify himself in that position, learn that position, work out the position in the sense where he should be, in transition of play. Whereas when you look at Leonard, he does a really good job for us and he's equally determined. He gives it his all and he's very good going forward. But sometimes I do question his positioning sense. Whereas McNamara looks a little bit more comfortable, again, purely down to the fact that he plays there all the time. Whereas Leonard will play sometimes at centre back, sometimes will play in midfield, he'll play right wing back. So I feel more comfortable. I feel more at ease seeing McNamara there. But again, if Ralph decides, you know what, I'm gonna wind your neck back in, you're gonna go on the bench, I'm gonna put Leonard on right wing back, then I would not disagree with him, and I think, you know what, fair play, and I'm happy for Leonard to start. But hopefully this contract gets sorted out quite quickly. It's disappointing when you hear, Mitchell gets offered a contract, accepts it. Murray Wallace gets offered the contract, accepts it. There's no drama, there's no delay. And this one's been going on for seems like weeks at the moment. And you can't believe all the rumours and what everyone's saying, but if rumours are true, you do question. If you're a Millwall boy and you want to be here, why are you delaying? Just sign a bloody contract. You're still young. You're only 22, 23 years old, I think he is.
Yep, 23, I think.
So yeah, it's disappointing. But look, we can only judge him by what he does on the pitch. Forget what goes off the pitch, behind the scenes. At the minute when he's playing, he gives it his all. He seems, very, very confident and gives us what we need on that side of the pitch.
Absolutely, mate. I think he also benefits. I mean, we've not seen him in a back four, but I wonder if he benefits from having that protection of someone like Hutchinson down the right hand side with him. I don't think defensively he's terrible, McNamara. If anything, I'd say he's a lot better than Romeo was defensively. But I do think, he suits having that kind of free license on the right hand side of the pitch, if you know what I mean, with the confidence knowing there's three central defenders behind him. I feel like.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's still a young guy, isn't he? I mean, I know he's had a good season last season, but he's still a young guy. I think he's still learning. And you're right. I think he would definitely benefit from someone like Hutch behind him on that right side of the fence to kind of marshal him a little bit and talk to him and guide him. But then what I noticed the other week when I saw in the friendly Cresswell on that side, although Cresswell's 3 years younger than him, or 2 years younger than him, he was still telling McNamara what to do, where to go. Even from the opposition's goal kick, he was shouting at McNamara to push up higher to close their fullback down or something, And McNamara, almost like a little kid, sort of turns around looking at Cresswell, checking, is that okay? Like, I'm all right here. Should I go back a little bit? That's a credit to Cresswell, and that's respect 100%. But McNamara's got for Cresswell. That he's looking at this guy as somebody who's kind of coaching him during the game, although Cresswell's played a handful of games, isn't he, in first team football, and there's McNamara who's played a whole season under his belt, and he's looking at Cresswell, telling him where to go and where he should be, and I think that's a credit to Cresswell. So you're right, having Hutchinson or Cresswell behind him is only going to benefit McNamara, I think, this season.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the midfield two then. I'll let you go first, pal. Who's your midfield two? Obviously, to who we got to pick from, we've got George Saville, George Honeyman, George Evans. I suppose you could throw Leonard in there if you want to too. Billy Mitchell, Shackleton. There's 6 really good central midfield options there, mate. So maybe a bit too top heavy, maybe in midfield. Maybe I still think there might be a departure, maybe or two. But who's your midfield two anyway, mate?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to pick from there, isn't there? And we're quite lucky and quite blessed in that sense. I mean, obviously, a couple of those mentioned there, they can also play in defence, or then it can play right wing back as well. So we're quite fortunate we can mix players around. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, maybe sort of 5 to 10 games before Rowett settles on his preferred two. We saw last season, towards the end of last season, he kind of settled on Saville and Mitchell, and that worked really well. To be fair, it was a nice little balance. Saville being a left-footed player predominantly, and obviously, and Mitchell playing on the right side of the two. Look at the new players at the moment. You kind of want to create space for the likes of Honeyman, the likes of Shackleton. Although, in my eyes, I don't think Mitchell, Saville have done anything wrong. I think they could come in and they could start against Stoke and they still do a good job for us. But given the options we've given and the players we've got available to play for us, I will probably go for Honeyman and Shackleton. And it'd be a real shame to sort of see Saville and Mitchell both miss out on a starting position, because I like them both. I really do rate them both. But I think when you look at the way we're looking to play this season and the energy that Shackleton and Honeyman will bring and give us in midfield, it's going to be so important for us. And of course, they've got that little bit extra ability. They respect a bit to Mitchell and to Saville, but I think just on the ball, they look a bit more comfortable. Their positioning is a lot better. They're running, the runs that they make as well, whether it be runs going forward or whatever it might be, is very, very good. If you ever watch them, they off the ball, they are very good, the runs they make. So for me, I'm going to go for Shackleton and Honeyman as my two centre mids. How about yourself?
It's funny because I thought I was being controversial by going for Shackleton and Honeyman, because I've gone exactly the same too.
Have you really?
And more or less for the same reasons too. Again, yeah, that's it. I don't think it'll be the 11. I don't think they'll be the two we see on Saturday, because I think especially Shackleton, he's coming a bit late to the setup and stuff like that. But we will go back on the basis here of our strongest 11, and the same reason why I picked my left wing back. I think we're gonna have a lot of legs in the midfield and a lot of energy as well. And then I think you then get away with not having two bombing wing backs, because then you might see players drift wide. Honeyman likes to operate, I feel like, in them wide spaces from the midfield, like you're saying, obviously getting forward as well. It's mad to even think we're missing someone like George Saville out of the team, because remember what George Saville was for us 4 years ago, And I know obviously he played a different role last year and he's asked to do a different role in this side, but he's still a Northern Ireland international and plays for them pretty much every game too. And at championship level, like George Saville is, like, he'd probably get into about 16 or 17 of the 24 teams in the league, aside from the two, the top 6, I'd say, that are fancied this year. And it's crazy to even consider thinking, like, you're leaving someone like Saville out of the team. And the same goes to Mitchell. But I just think with Shackleton and Honeyman in particular, like, we're going to see constant energy, a lot of kind of gives and goes, a lot of kind of, try to outrun teams and try to play around teams. And I think with, I think we're both probably going to have Fleming in the 10 position, for example. I think there's going to be a good link up between the three of them there potentially as well. I do personally think, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I've said it a few times now this pre-season, that I think it wouldn't surprise me if we go to Sheffield United in a week's time and have a 5-3-2 and have 2 up top and have 3 midfielders, because obviously you've got the options there too. And it wouldn't surprise me if you had, say, example, a Mitchell, Saville and Honeyman midfield 3, and try to kind of pack the midfield out and then try to then hit teams on the counter attack perhaps. But I think, I think if we're going with the 5-2-1-2 convention and what I think is the strongest 11, I agree with you, mate. That's the midfield too. But I thought you would have gone someone else. I have no idea why.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, for what we go for, I mean, we both agree on those two, don't we? But I've got a funny feeling that Rowett will probably start with Mitchell, and if it does, fair play to Mitchell. He might start with Shackleton on the bench. I've got a funny feeling he might go with Mitchell and Honeyman against Stoke in that position. But where you and I are probably a little bit more adventurous thinking and Rowett a bit more defensive minded, I think he'll choose Mitchell purely for his kind of physical presence, his discipline. He knows he's somebody who's not going to be too adventurous. Mitchell's not going to try and bomb forward and get into the box or try and create, or try and make a play a long pass somewhere. So maybe he feels having Mitchell in the two alongside Honeyman will allow Honeyman to express himself a bit more, and then Mitchell will be the more disciplined out the two of them. Yep. But I think at home against Stoke, who haven't had the best of pre-seasons, I would just love for us to just go for it and say, let's start with Shackleton and Honeyman and give these guys the license to kind of be creative, get forward, make runs, and give us more attacking options. So let's see what happens. But I hope that you and I are right, and he's not.
That's it, mate. I mean, who you got in the 10 position? Is it kind of a given at this point?
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I mean, Fleming is the obvious choice for me. I mean, we know that Honeyman can play there. We know that Bury can play there. We know that Bennett can play there. So again, we're quite blessed with the amount of players that can play in these positions. But for me, Fleming is our number 10. We've seen him play up front. I've heard lots of Mill fans on social media sort of talk about how Fleming should play up front. He's a striker. Yeah, he can do a job there. But for me, you're not going to get the best of Fleming unless you get him into the game. To get him into the game, you've got to play him in that kind of free role at number 10 position where he can get on the ball and make things happen. We saw it in the games he played in the pre-season friendlies against Ipswich in particular. I mean, he looked, I'm not saying he looked lost, but he just didn't get the ball. I think, he's not used to battling against English defenders at the moment. So what he didn't anticipate, and I think he's learned very quickly, is that you don't get no time on the ball, especially if you're a forward, and you've got to be able to battle and you'll be able to win that ball and hold the ball up. So what he was doing was he was coming a little bit deep, and nobody noticed that. He was coming deep to try and get the ball to come off the defender a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the defender would just follow him or someone will just mark him. So I think give him that number 10 role, give him the free role to kind of pick balls up, turn, try and hit some through balls or try and hit some diagonal balls or get in the box late and use his finishing or his aerial ability. I think he would be a really good asset for us. So that's probably where I would play him, and I'd be surprised if Rowett decides to play him anywhere else.
100% agree, mate. And I do think, I think, like I said, if it's a 5-3-2, it wouldn't surprise me to see Fleming being the deeper forward in that scenario. But I think, going on what we've seen preseason, and we've only seen the 5-2-1-2, really. We've not seen any other variations, really. So, and I think, I don't know how you think on this one, but I was thinking about it earlier, and I was actually talking to a friend about it. I think he's obviously found it a bit tough going in pre-season. He obviously scored the good goal against Palace, and it's a training game, but you've not really seen a lot of him and kind of flourish in these games. How long do you, if you're the manager, like this is a conversation I was having with my friend earlier, like how long do you back him for? I mean, obviously he's our £2 million or almost £2 million record signing. We're putting a lot of hope and anticipation into him. He's still only 22, 23 years old. And he's come with a lot of pressure, you could say. I think for me, you've got to stick by him. This is your signing. And if you're Rowett in this scenario, you can't take him out the side against Sheffield United in a week's time after having a poor game against Stoke. This is your big marquee signing. You've got to back him for at least 10 games, give him a run of games and let him try and get into these games, I feel like. I don't know what you think, or do you want to ease him into it and think, it might take him some transitional time? But I look at Liverpool, they're talking about that Nunes, they signed for 90 million. They're like, we'll ease him in, but they've got 3 top class strikers as it is. So how do you feel about that one, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Rowett has to give him time. If he doesn't give him time and he doesn't play him or puts on the bench, what's going to happen is all the Mill fans are going to get on his back. They're going to start questioning why he spent all this money on a player. It's not good enough, So it's Rowett wants it to work. Rowett needs Fleming to perform. He needs him to do the business for us. So in order for him to do that, Rowett has to back him. He has to build a team around him. He needs to give him the confidence to express himself and do what he needs to do. And I won't be surprised if they've had conversations on the training ground. Where do you want to play? Where do you see yourself more comfortable? I won't be surprised if they're having these conversations. And I think he just needs to kind of work with him, work with the player, give him time. I don't think it was taking too long. I know Mickey mentioned in the last show that it might take him sort of 10 games before we start seeing anything come off it. I think it might take him about 4 or 5 games, I reckon, maybe even less. I mean, a goal will certainly help him. And if he scores against Stoke on Saturday, that will lift his confidence 100%. But I've seen enough in him in pre-season, in games against Hammarby and also a game against Ipswich, where I just like the bit of quality he has. I mean, yes, there's been times when he's slow to react to a pass receiving to him and defenders kind of snuffed him out, or he hasn't quite shielded the ball well enough of the defender and he's outstrengthed him, or he's went down looking for a free kick, didn't get it, and he looks really kind of pissed off. But I have seen some qualities. I've seen him hold the ball. I've seen him, his creativity, the way he kind of looks to play the ball out wide. And there's been a couple of times where he's received the ball, he's played a kind of diagonal ball at the top to a Phobia to try and play him in. And, and again, he hasn't quite come off. Even his amazing scissor kick that he completely spooned and went for the corner flag. The fact that the intent's there, the fact that he wants to play this way of football, I think it's only a good thing. And what we can't do, and what Rowett can't do, is we can't knock that out of him. We can't give him the fans in particular, we can't give him a hard time. If he misses chances or if he goes for a scissor kick and balloons it out of the stadium, we can't get on his back. We've got to build him up with confidence. Because this kid, if we can build his confidence up and get him playing to his potential, we know he can be at. He can be a massive, massive sign for us this season and really sort of do well for us. And then obviously, in a few years' time, who knows what could happen? We could probably sell him for 15, 20 million pounds, and that would help the club in its rebuilding program. So fingers crossed, I give him time. Hopefully, the fans back him, support him, and give him confidence, and we can see what a player he is in the next sort of few games.
100% agree, mate. And I think it's the pipeline dream, isn't it? Buy a player for 2 million, sell him for 20 million in the 3 or 4 years' time. But it's feasible. And you
So,
see clubs do it all the time in the Championship, So that's got to be
yeah.
the ambition, I think, to try and then help us reinvest and try and improve us as a club as well at the same time. And it does feel like that kind of signing, which we don't normally make. And it's exciting to have. And I think this thing is though, Joe, like I agree with you, and I'm saying it as well. Like you got to back him, but this is a Championship. You know what I mean? If we lose 5 straight games, or if he's gonna get the ball on Saturday and he's gonna have Phil Jagielka at 39 years old sliding through the back of him. Do you know what I mean? This is going to be a rude awakening. I feel like for him a little bit, because you saw him against Palace, and I think if he was in the Premier League where he's got time a bit on the ball, or a bit more of a kind of technical game, the Championship is fast, fierce, and fearsome at the same time. That's the same word, but you get my point. Like this is the Championship.
No, I completely agree, and it will be a bit of a baptism fire against Stoke and playing likes of Jagielka, who's very old school and he's defending the way he is. But then what we've got to remember as well is that every day in training, in matches, he's playing against the probably the best defenders in the Championship, the likes of Hutch and Cooper and Murray Wallace and Cresswell, and these guys these guys don't mess about in training. I've seen these guys train. That they Wright wants them train like they do in a match day. They're going full pelt. They're putting tackles in, and they're not afraid to get stuck in. So he's used to it. He's used to the physicality now, or he has been over the last sort of couple of weeks. So give him time. I don't think he needs long, but give him 2 or 3 games. And I think he would adjust. He's got a bit about him. We've seen it in little snippets. But all it takes is a goal or something to come off to build his confidence up, and then we can see him running the show for us. And let's hope it happens. Let's hope he can get the fans backing.
Definitely. So we'll finish off with the front 2. I realised we didn't go to Chris's team, but we'll react to it afterwards instead for the 11. I toyed with this one a lot because I really like Mason Bennett. I really think he's everything we need in a forward line as well. But I can't look past, and I'm hoping we can, if I think back to last season, Joe, to recapture that moment in a bottle of the 6-7 games of Bradshaw and Phobie, where it's like the Christmas spell into the point in January where Bradshaw got injured. If I could recapture anything and have that over 46 game season, it'll be them for 2 in the front 2 partnership, and the bromance between the 2 of them as well. And I think that is we're not here to make friends, we're here to win games. But I think it's an important dynamic them to have, and a good kind of relationship. And we did see it towards the end of the last season as well, against Peterborough as well, if I remember correctly. And the 2 of them do have that in them to kind of merge and make a great partnership. And for that reason, I can't look past the 2 of them. If it was a different formation and we had a left winger, for example, Bennett would be in my team quite easily, I think, if I'm honest. But it's a great option to have off the bench regardless there. But I can't look past Bradshaw and Phobie, mate. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do love the bromance between the 2 of them. Obviously, it's very nice to see, and they play really well together. They seem to have a good understanding, don't they? They seem to work very well together. And you're right. Yeah, they had a good end to the season. They scored lots of goals. We seem to be clicking. But then we got to remember again, and I hate using the J word, but the J was there. Jed was there, wasn't he?
Jed who?
Jed who?
Mickey would say Jed who, so JW, Jed who.
Exactly. Jed who was there at the end of last season, and maybe he kind of gave us that little bit of pace where occasionally he'll be breaking through or running into the channels and getting crosses in for them and making things happen. Fleming's not that sort of player. We're looking at Fleming to come in to fill Jed's boots, and he can do a good job, but he's not a Jed. But then Jed's not a Fleming either. There's things that Fleming will show us that he can do that Jed can't do. And I just feel, looking at Fleming and looking at what he's done over the years with his previous clubs, when he does play in that kind of number 10 role, that midfield position, he does rely on fast forwards, on pacey forwards, making runs for him. And he's really good at finding them and picking passes out and creating chances for them. And also where the forwards are quite pacey and they stretch the defenders, it allows him the time to get in the box late to then score goals or get headers in, you see. So when I'm looking at Fleming and I'm seeing him, somebody's going to get the ball, look up, the first thing he's thinking is, who's going to move for me? Where's the movement? Where's the options? And when I look at a Phobie and I look at Bradshaw, I don't think they quite give us the runs or the kind of movement that he's looking for him to pick passes. Whereas Bennett is very good at doing that. So Bennett will probably be a very good fit for Fleming, where Fleming will be looking for him to make runs, diagonal runs, and try and feed him in. Equally, I think Fleming's very, very good at running with the ball. When you look at Afobe and look at Bradshaw, they're very good in and around the box, but you don't really see them doing much as in carrying the ball and try and sort of take defenders on and making things happen, whereas Bennett can do that quite well, Bennett. So for the purpose of the team that I've picked, for the purpose of having Fleming in that number 10 role and try and give him the license to kind of create and do things, he needs players around him. And I would rather start with Bennett and Afobe. So Bennett, not Bennett, Afobe, Bennett and Afobe up front, have Bradshaw on the bench, and maybe bring Bradshaw on in 70 minutes, 75 minutes if we need an extra sort of goal scorer on there. We need to kind of change it up a little because Bradshaw probably only needs 15 minutes. And he's very, very good at sniffing out a goal. We can create chances, anything in a 6-yard box, he's going to put it away, he's going to be there. But for the team that I've picked, I've gone for a Bennett and a Foe for a bit more pace on the break and also a bit more movement up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I think I'm backing Bradshaw this year, so I think that's why I put him in my team. But everything you said there about Bennett is exactly the reasons that I was toying with it, really kind of tough there. I'm just holding on to the pipeline dream of the goals that Bradshaw and Afobe offered us in that 6-7 game spell. And if we had that over 20, 30 games, we'll be in the right direction. But all your points there, 100% bang on, mate. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah. I think so. The two disagreements in our sides, mate, is I've got Creswell at left centre half and Murray Wallace left wing back, and you've gone for Malone left wing back and Murray Wallace left centre half with no Hutchinson in the team, which I kind of understand. Yeah. I kind of understand, but for me, I think Hutchinson is pound for pound the last 3 or 4 years been the best Championship centre half, if not.
I know, and it hurts me to leave. It hurts me to leave him out. Yeah, and I do like him. He's not exactly a player that I don't like or wish we could get someone. I do like him. When you try to fit in a formation and the players that are going to fit in the formation that's going to be right for us tactically, and I talked about the mobility as well. I mean, you could put Hutchinson on right centre half and leave Cresswell out, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want to leave Murray Wallace out, but I do feel Malone will show us what he can do. He's like the best of pre-seasons, but again, let's judge him over the next sort of few games to see what he does. And if he can't recapture any of that form, then we're quite blessed in that sense that we've got players we can move. Murray Wallace at left wing back, can't we? We could put Hutchinson in there and Cresswell and Cooper and still have a decent team, decent 11. So
definitely.
And all good.
And the only other disagreement obviously was Bennett for you instead of me, Bradshaw. So we'll go to Chris's team and then we'll give our teams at the end just to close up the part. I'm going to play the voice note that Chris sent to us earlier. So 3 minutes long, and bear with, guys.
Good evening, gents. Sorry I couldn't be there for the show this evening, but here is my 1 to 11 as per request. Right. Okay. In goal, Mr. Bartosz Białkowski. I think that one picks itself for now anyway. Playing a 5-3-2 or our variation of it. Right wing back, maybe an unpopular opinion, but I've said it on Twitter and I'm going to say it here, would be Ryan Leonard. I think A, he has performed better than Danny Mack in pre-season, and B, I think until Danny Mack's contract situation sorted out, I would go with Ryan Leonard.
There you go. Yeah.
My 3 centre-backs would be on the right-hand side, and captain would be Sean Hutchinson, in the centre, Jake Cooper, and on the left, Murray Wallace. Charlie Cresswell misses out, but he will have a massive part to play this season. And I see him being the sort of, I think he'll break into the team quite quickly, but ultimately I think we should stick with the 3 that served us so well last season, but it's great to have the competition. And then left wing back, Scott Malone. Not the biggest fan of his pre-season performances, but I want to give him a go and give him a chance and see how he performs on Saturday. You can't read too much into pre-season, as we've already discussed. My central midfield pairing. So this is a difficult one because I actually think I'm going to leave out the player that I think is probably the best player of all of them, and that's Jamie Shackleton. But I'm not sure in his match fitness. So on that basis, I'm going to start with George Honeyman and George Saville as my 2 central midfielders.
2 Georges.
That is assuming Saville is also fully match fit, which he might not be because I know he came back later due to the international stuff that he was doing. So assuming everyone's fit, I think for a bit of balance, we'll have Saville and Honeyman. Could potentially leave us a little bit exposed in terms of a link from the back five. But I want to play a little bit more forward thinking, and they're the two I'd go with. I would then play Mr. Fleming in the number 10 position. I want to see what he's all about. And then, despite the fact I think Bennett is one of our best players, I'm going to leave him on the bench for an impact. And I'm going to go with the dynamic duo of Tom Bradshaw and Bennett Obi up front. To me, that's probably our strongest 11 based on where we are currently. I think we've got some nice options off the bench with Bennett. Depending on where the game is going, we've got Mitchell, Shackleton and Evans from midfield. We've got Bury for a little bit of pace. And, of course, we've got Cresswell at the back. And obviously Danny Mack as well for fullbacks. I still think we're a little bit short, as I've already mentioned before, in terms of attacking options and pace in forward areas. But I'm hopeful that in the next week or two, we will bring in one or two new additions in order to help that. But there we go. Thanks for that, gents. And, of course, bye for now.
That was good. Really good. That was good. A fair play to Chris. Yeah. And I think he's gone more obviously catered to what he wants to see on Saturday, in unless of the strongest 11, which obviously we've since kind of caveated since. So that's fair enough. And obviously we didn't say that at the time to him, but it's interesting that he also mentioned Shackleton being one of the best midfielders, which is what we're kind of getting at there. But he's missing him out Saturday due to how long he's been involved for. So I think it's probably safe to assume he likes Honeyman too. It would have been Honeyman and Shackleton midfield too. Like we agree there. So yeah, I think it's exciting times, mate, isn't it? I think I think on the mention of depth, where do you think we're short in that side? I mean, I'd like to maybe, if I was to handpick two positions or two players, I'm not who I'm going to say at the top of my head, but I think we need another striker, just something to mix it up a bit more raw pace, and Ollie Burke-esque, that had that raw pace where he had the ball and defenders. Yeah, defenders were just scared of him, and I actually think missing out on him actually might be. If we don't get a player like that, it could be the stumbling block we have over the next couple of months, which is, I know it sounds crazy to say, because Burke wasn't the greatest technically, but if you gave him the ball and just told him to run, he'd cause all sorts of problems.
Also, his pressing, wasn't he? His pressing was great to see. He's come off the bench, 70 minutes where it would have been at the time, and he just gave us that energy, that kind of fight, that pressing, and it was dangerous, and defenders were almost scared of him, and it almost kind of created space and chances for others, didn't it? Although he wasn't getting a lot of goals at the time, but he was making things happening. He was making things work in that final third. So I completely agree with you. Yeah.
And I think also if you look at Phobie's goal against Luton, one where he's tapped in at the back post, first time finish, it was Burke on the left-hand side that made the goal, running down the wing, puts the ball in the box. His delivery was sometimes flat as deceive, but I think you saw what he was about and why I think we need one more player just like that in the forward areas, personally. And I'd also like to see us try and go for, we've been linked with Nathan Byrne, who could play right and left wing back, because, I've gone for Mo Willis left wing back. I'd rather him be in the heart of the defence, but, I think if we had someone to rival Malone and McNamara, but also have Leonard in there too, there's a lot of depth there and a lot of cover. I think maybe you could say number 10 position could be the kind of place to go for maybe as well. But I think Bennett can play there. Honeyman can play there. There's enough depth in the midfield positions for me. Bury too, exactly. So I think for me, if I had the choice, I'd try and handpick a wing back that can play on both sides and a forward, mate. I don't know about yourself. Do you agree there?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it'd be hard to bring in another 10 type player. Let's be honest, all these number 10 players have got big egos. They're all big players. They want to be playing regularly. They're not playing, then what's the point? So we can't have too many options at number 10, and we've already got a few as it is. So I think the positions that we would need, if I can get two players in, I'll be happy. So that would be Nathan Byrne, like you say, who could play right wing back or left wing back, give a bit more cover. And just a pacey forward, something different to what we've got at the moment. We look at what we've got up front. We've got some good strikers, and all very different, in their own ways. But we do lack someone who can play on the shoulder, who can give us pace and counter attack and beat the offside trap. And again, I keep going back to Fleming. He wants players that's going to make runs for him, and so he can play through balls or balls over the top. So having a pacey forward up there that's going to be looking to make diagonal runs or runs into the box for him to find them is what we really need. So I really do hope that Raya can get one more striker in and one more wing back, would be a left right wing back, like a Nathan Byrne that can kind of play him in both sides.
Perfect. Yeah, that was well summed up, mate, and a great chat so far to give our strongest 11s there, mate. So just to recap, my 11 was Bart Bielkowski in goal, Charlie Cresswell, left centre half, Jake Cooper, and Sean Hutchin, right centre half. Matt McNamara, right wing back, and Morales, left wing back, Shackleton and Honeyman in midfield 2, with Fleming, Afobe, and Bradshaw completing the team.
Yeah.
And your teammate was?
So mine was Bart in goal, a back three with Cresswell, Cooper, and Murray Wallace. So obviously Murray Wallace being the left side, Cresswell being the right side, Cooper being the centre. Right wing back McNamara, left wing back I've gone for Malone instead. We both agreed on Honeyman, Shackleton in the centre mids position, Fleming in the number 10. I've also gone for Afobe up front. Differences I've gone for Bennett rather than Bradshaw, but I love Bradshaw. I love him to bits. I think he's a lovely guy, a great player. But I just feel Bennett will give us that little bit of a cutting edge up front, a bit of pace, and hopefully make a difference.
Spot on, mate. Right, that ends up part 1. If you're listening and you haven't put your team yet in the comment section, be sure to do it. Let us know what you think of our 11s and whether you agree with us or disagree. Any criticism or criticism, any praise or criticism, either or is welcome there. And yeah, we'll go into part number 2 now and talk about Stoke City on Saturday. Okay, mate, we're back. Part
Brilliant.
2. 10 minutes now. Let's go. Come on. Stoke City at home on Saturday, Joe. What's your hopes and expectations going into this game, mate? It's a bit open-ended there, but what you got for me, mate? What are you thinking?
I'm feeling really optimistic and really confident about it. You know, I really am. And this goes back to our performances in pre-season, where I don't think we're quite 100% at the moment. We're not quite firing all cylinders. There's probably a reason for that. I get that. I feel we just kind of saved ourselves for our opening game of the season. No one wants to get injured at this stage of the season, do they? And prevent them from starting. So I think we'll do really well. I think Stoke, from memory, had a real poor pre-season. They haven't done great at all. Mike O'Neill, their manager, has really come out and said, look, he's quite scared, almost quite worried about playing Millwall, especially at our ground. And whether that's just mind games, I don't know. But he seems to be quite honest in what he says anyway. And what's that going to do to them? Is that going to make them feel a little bit unconfident? Are they going to sit back a little bit, and not going to go for us and be a bit more defensive minded? It should allow us to play. We should be playing on the front foot against Stoke and going for it right from the first minute. With the energy we've got now, and lots of Honeyman and Shackleton and players like that, hopefully we can really kind of put it on them, press them high, get an early goal, settle the nerves a little bit, and then hopefully we can sort of bang 2 or 3 more in and come out with a convincing win.
Definitely, mate, and that's the hope and prayers and the expectation anyway.
Well, I'm not going to see it, of course.
You're not going to see it. You're going to be in.
Have I mentioned that yet? I don't have I?
You mentioned it at the start of the show, mate. You're leaving us. I can't believe you've got a holiday to go on the first day of the season. What are you playing at? But
I'm tempted to leave the wife at the airport, to be honest with you. But
Stoke have had 5 pre-seasons games. You're right. They've only won 1, which is their first game against Cork City. They then lost 2-0 to Accrington Stanley. They then drew 1-1 with Fleetwood, lost 2-0 away to Bristol Rovers, and then finished it up last weekend with a 2-1 defeat against Hearts, the Scottish side. Who are we looking out for Stoke? I mean, they made some signings this window. They've brought in the likes of Will Smallbone, Joe, who I mentioned to you earlier. Also, was linked with him, the midfielder from Southampton on loan.
Yeah, youngster as well. Was he 22, 23 years old, 22 years old? Again, very, very good player. You can kind of understand why we didn't go for him. When you look at the likes of Shackleton and Honeyman that we've got in now, getting him would be a bit pointless, wouldn't it? But a great signing for them. He's a promising youngster who I'm sure is going to go on to bigger and better things. Who else have they signed?
They've also signed Aidan Flint, the centre-half that's been around in the Championship for a long while. I think he went to Cardiff from Bristol City, or he went to Middlesbrough from Bristol City for like £7-8 million. And that was 3 or 4 years ago. He was at Cardiff last year. I think he scored twice against us, if I'm not mistaken, earlier in the season. I think Cardiff started the season under McCarthy, and they might have scored like 7 goals in 3 games, and they were all set pieces or defenders scoring headers, I think, or something weird, quirky like that. And I think he got 3 or 4 goals to start the season off, and he scored twice against us at Cardiff City Stadium. They've also got Dwight Gale, obviously the Newcastle player. They signed him on a free agent.
That'd be interesting,
Yeah, he does. He got 30 minutes at the weekend against Hearts, and that was his first game time. And they've also signed a midfielder from Bournemouth, who I don't know if you recall seeing last season much, but his name was Gavin Kilkenny, a midfielder. He's Irish midfielder.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he didn't play too much toward the end of the season, but he's also fancied by Michael O'Neill, who was obviously Irish connections there as such. And I think he's just picked him out as a player to sign. And also Josh Laurent from Reading is a free agent they signed. So, I mean, the last game against Hearts, players that they played in the game, they only made 3 substitutions. So it's not going to be too dissimilar to the team I'm expecting us to have against on the weekend. Lewis Baker's in there, the midfielder that used to be at Chelsea. He's on set pieces a lot. He's a bit of a threat. I think the player I watch out for a lot is Jacob Brown, the striker. He's been around for a little bit and he's quite fancied at Stoke, and a lot of players.
Is Nick Powell still playing for them? Nick Powell?
I think he's injured. To start the season. Yeah, so
okay, that's a touch.
It's a touch for us. Yeah, Phil Jagielka's in there. I think that's who we got to target. I think if we're looking at trying to, beat defence for pace at all, Fabian Brasher aren't the slowest, but not the quickest. But if we can get past,
maybe Bennett on him, would you reckon?
Yeah, that's exactly. It could be an option there. Tyrese Campbell's a striker again, who I watch out for a lot from them as well. And then a few other players like Ben Wilmot's there, and DiMaggio Wright Phillips. Obviously, Sean Wright Phillips' son is involved at the club as well. And Sam Klukas, a player we was actually linked with a year or so ago, that Rowett signed for Stoke. Okay. He's still involved there as well. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm hoping. It's always the hope and anticipation when it's a big game at the Den, 14, 15, 16,000 hopefully there on the weekend, Joe. And it's the hope it's the hope and anticipation when you go into a game like that. And then Mill will let us down. But I think it's important with the home form in particular that we get off to a good start this season, mate. And, we've got some tough away games this month as well. The likes of Sheffield United, Norwich, Burnley, Swansea. Tough places to go in August, let alone for a season. So I think if we need to get off to a good home start, I feel like, and hopefully just get the crowd on side straight away from the get-go, mate.
I hope so. I mean, it'd be lovely for us to kind of start off the season, by winning our first sort of 2 or 3 games and really kind of, I know it's a long way to go. It's not a sprint, is it? It's a marathon, as they say, and but just to kind of be, to get off on the right foot, to kind of really kind of fly at the traps and get a couple of good wins and just get the fans behind the players. Let's be honest, if we start winning games, the fans will start coming in and watching them. And the Den is a real fortress. When the Den's packed out, and we've seen how it's like when it's half packed out, but when it's fully packed out, it does make a real big difference. We do become the 12th man in the team, and it showed it last season in our performances. We had the second best.
Third best home record last season, yeah.
So, and that's credit to the Millwall fans, which is brilliant. They do support them, and I think the players we brought in, likes of Honeyman and Creswell, are going to really thrive off the Millwall support. If we can, pack the Den out and hopefully get behind the lads. So let's see what happens. I mean, I'll love it. If we win on Saturday. We're quite fortunate, I think, in the fact that Stoke haven't had the best of pre-seasons. Their morale is quite low. They're still gelling. They haven't quite clicked, a bit like ourselves, really. But the difference is, I think we will go in there confident against Stoke, and they probably won't be so confident. So let's hope we can, get off to a good start, get an early goal, and then cruise it, and then maybe score 2 or 3, which would be lovely, wouldn't it?
I'm crossing everything for that, mate. And if that's the case on Saturday evening, I'll be the happiest person going, and I think you'll be the happiest person in Greece too, mate. So everyone will be happy.
I will. I'll be running around the pool. I'll be bobbing into the pool and wetting everyone. And I'll be over the moon.
I've got visions of George Honeyman in the first 5 minutes, either in front of the West Low or East Low, just going through a Stoke midfielder. And I've just got visions of that, and then the crowd turning, everyone getting excited, and then the atmosphere lifts.
You remember he did that against Ipswich?
Yeah.
Was it like 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in? I think it's the first thing he did. He went straight in and won his great tackle and went the ball out for a throw in. But there's only the Kitchener stand that was there, obviously watching the game, and you had a bit of a roar from them. But imagine the whole stadium, him flying into a tackle, winning a ball, kicking the player up in the air. The Mill fans are going to just really warm to and take to him and love him, and that's going to again fill him up with confidence as well. It's going to get him performing, and he does play with a lot of passion. So I'm just gutted, Omar. Have I mentioned you before? I'm not going to be there.
Get iFollow on, mate, or Millwall TV.
I
They
know.
call it. You'll be all right. You have a beer whilst you're watching it, and cheer us on
Yeah,
from your
I
Sunday,
will.
mate.
I will. I will.
Come on,
Hopefully,
then, mate.
hopefully you enjoy it.
Give me your score prediction for Saturday's game, mate, and then we'll wrap up today's
Okay,
show.
this one, I'm very, very, very confident. This one, I'm going to go 3-1 Millwall.
Like it. Any goal
3-1
scorers?
Millwall.
You gonna give me goal scorers too, or
Yeah, goal scorers. I'm going to go for Fleming. So
Yep.
this will technically be his debut, won't it?
Yeah.
As with Honeyman.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to go for Fleming. I'm going to go for Cooper, and I'm going to go for a Phobie.
Like it. Good. Sounds good. Are we
Yeah.
gonna be comfortably ahead and they're gonna get a consolation, or is it gonna be a bit
I
nervy to
reckon we're
start the
going to
game?
go.
Or
We're going to go 1-0 up.
Yep.
Everyone's going to go, yes, this is great. Really go for it. And then we're going to go 2-0 up, and then they're going to score.
Yeah.
2-1. We're going to think, oh, what's going on there? Last
Squeaky
15
bum
minutes,
time.
we're going to get a bit. Yeah, exactly. We go, here we go again. Mill going to give it away. And then I think a Phobie will then, get a counter attack or something. He'll score, and it will be 3-1, and then we'll relax and just cruise it to the end. How about yourself?
Do you remember my prediction on the last show that our biggest win of the season is going to be?
Was it 4-0 you said, didn't you? Was it 4-0?
4-0 on the first day of the season, I said. So I've kind of got to stick by that, haven't I? So
Okay.
look,
Who's the score though?
I know it's delusional, and I know people listen to this. If you've not listened to the last show, I kind of went our biggest win of the season will be 4-0, and I got carried away and said it's going to be the first game of the season. Okay, let's be hopeful, mate. I think we beat teams 4-0 at opening day of the season. I remember under Jacket, I think we beat Hull 4-0 and Nobby Solano was playing for Hull City at right back. There's a bit of a quirky one for you to remember.
Wow, great memory.
And I think I just think we've got to go into this game full of confidence, full of beans, have the crowd on side from the minute one.
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to be 4-0? No, but I'm going to go with it and say it. It's going to be 4-0.
Yeah. Well, why can't it be? We saw the women's England team, didn't we? Beat Sweden 4-0, against the second highest ranked team in the world, behind Brazil. So that's incredible. And I can't see why we couldn't beat a team that, let's be honest, are struggling with confidence at the moment and not firing all cylinders, had a bad pre-season, that are a bit scared to come and play at the Den. So why couldn't we go and smash them 4-0? So I'm with you, mate. I think we can do it.
Right, 4-0. Malone, Fleming. Let's back the Fleming. Let's back the Dutch Meister, the Bermondsey Bergkamp. Let's back him. And then I'll give 2 to Bradshaw because I'm backing Bradshaw this year. Come on, this is Bradshaw. Bradshaw's my guy this year.
Really?
I'm telling you, I fancy it. I want Bradshaw to get off to a good start on the weekend. I just want us to win. Just want us to win.
What's interesting that you haven't gone for any sort of defenders. You don't believe you're going to score any goals for sort of
I said Malone. Malone left wing backs. He's going to score a goal. So
yeah. I do fancy one of our defenders getting it. Well, I'm not sure whether it be like a Cresswell or a Cooper or a Hutch. I fancy them get one against them. But yeah, hopefully there'll be goals. Let's hope we're not sitting here, next week or you that for that case doing the next show and talking about a 0-0 ball draw and 1-0 defeat. Let's hope we got it right and we're not got it wrong.
As long as we're not turned over 4-0, then it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But Joe, thanks as always, mate, for coming to help me tonight. And
my pleasure. Absolutely loved it.
That. Yeah, it's good.
Thank you, mate. Cheers for having us on. I really enjoy that.
Enjoy your holiday, mate.
Thanks. I'll try to.
But yeah, guys, thanks for always tuning in and watching today. If you're new around here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and like the video. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, leave a review, put 5 stars. It helps us out more than you think. Check us out on socials at That Mill Pods, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I've got to plug the TikTok for Mickey. And check our website out, thatmillpodcast.co.uk. And there's a lot of content going up there through Kai and all other young writers that we have at the moment with us. So thanks for watching, guys. And that's the end of edition 7 of the 2022-23 season. See you soon.